He killed many enemies. Umar ibn Sa'd ordered his soldiers to attack. While the enemies attacked the leopard, the Imam threw a spear at his chest. The leopard fell to fate as he was falling from his horse. He cried out, "O father, my last salam to you," as he hit the ground. The spear broke, but the blade remained in his upper's chest. When our Imam heard a personal salam, he took a fraud where Hadar Abbas lay and said, "Abbas, now this brother of yours needs you most. Where have you gone?" With all his strength, snapped by the anguish in Akbar's voice, Imam Hussain began to walk towards the battlefield. When Imam Hussain got to where Akbar lay, he took him in his arms. Akbar had his right hand on the chest. He placed his left arm over the shoulder of his father. Imam Hussain said, "Akbar, why do you embarrass me with one arm only?" Akbar would not reply. Imam gently moved the hand. Then he saw it. He saw the blade of the spear. Imam Hussain laid Akbar on of the ground and sitting on his knees. He put both of his hands on the blade of spear. He then looked at Najaf and cried out, "Father, to have come to my cabin." He pulled out of the blade. Angel Gabriel cried out, "Marhaba, marhaba." Akbar took the deep sigh and then left Imam Hussain alone. Imam Hussain cried, "My son, Ali Akbar, would you have gone? I have lost sight of my eyes. Inna illahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un." Muhammad wa ali Muhammad sallallahu
Brothers and sisters, please keep quiet so that our students be focused on their teachers. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. For our youth who do a lot of practice for this, let's say loud salawat. They are our future. I request all of you to please move forward, really all the way close to the member because today we expect a lot of Mu'minin Mu'minat to be coming. I request the sisters and thank you, if you have small children, less than 5 years of age or something, if you don't mind, please take them downstairs. We can turn the microphone downstairs, you can hear the Maulana downstairs also. So if you don't mind, so that the kids are not on the member, I really appreciate that. Blood drive is going on, all the Mu'mineen and Mu'minat who have donated blood, I really thank them and inshallah Allah will give them a big reward. I will ask Maulana to come to the member and you should say 3 salawat.
رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب. Before we begin, just a few things I wanted to say. I didn't plan on this; it just happened during the speeches. These youth were giving their speeches. Unfortunately, I'm a bit upset with this community right now, and I know the uncle addressed this, but I don't think it was enough. It's not hard. I mean, it's very, very. It's not an easy thing to do this. It's a very stressful thing to come and speak before other individuals, let alone for youth who are trying to read it off a piece of paper. You can see, sometimes your hands are trembling. You look out into other people. It's very, very difficult. I had a much higher expectation from this community, from a lot of the members here, than to see that they're speaking while a child is trying to share their love for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So I'm a bit disappointed. Inshallah, it's not something you have to apologize to me for, but I feel like those who were talking, I think you owe all the children here an apology. All those who were regarding how to become successful mu'mineen, how to increase our iman to a level where we could, inshallah, be at the level, perhaps, at the level that the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam were. And then, inshallah, that's the same level we're looking to achieve so that we can become the companions, the supporters, and the Shia of the Imam of the time. So we've been going through Surah Mu'minun, chapter 23. Right? First, we define what does it mean to be successful in terms of religion and your spirituality. Then we said there's different sifat, different characteristics of a successful mu'min, which are mentioned throughout these first 10 ayat. We started off talking about having khushu in your prayer, having humility in your prayer. We finished that. We started with the third ayah, which was the second characteristic that Allah mentions in Surah Mu'minun, in the third ayah, is that whenever they're involved in things which are useless, which are a waste of time, they don't get involved with that. So the first thing we talked about is what does it mean for something to be love? What does it mean to be a waste of time? And so it's anything that keeps you away from Allah, any thought, any speech, any action that isn't beneficial to your spirituality, that doesn't get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in fact makes you neglect it. Then we said, okay, how are we actually going to identify which things in our life are actually useful or useless, which is a waste of time, which is worth our time? We said that it's going to be tough to do that because if we ask different individuals here, we're going to get different answers. We gave some examples. So then the question was, do we have to completely keep away from everything that's quote-unquote a waste of time? We said, no, it's just like somebody getting in the ring. One of the points here is that we're trying to turn all of our actions into something which is spiritual. Make everything we do in our life, everything we say, everything we're involved with, something which is spiritual, something which is beneficial to us. So we gave some examples and we gave a formula too. We said, whenever you're about to do something or if you're already involved in something, we try to make some sort of mental connection back to Allah. Right? How am I serving jobs? You can earn a living for your family and take care of them, as Allah has asked us to do. Or that, okay, you're just learning things about this world. Right? This is Allah's creation. We're learning about His creation, His world, His universe. And this, in turn, will get us closer to Allah and understand how His cause and effect works in this universe. And then a third example we mentioned yesterday was about doing things around the house, or motherhood. Right? We mentioned that this also, raising a family is one of the, if not the most important duty that a mother can do. We're raising children, we're raising Shia, we're raising supporters, defenders of the Imam of the time. And this has been a huge burden placed more so on the women, on the mothers than it has the fathers. And we gave examples yesterday. So there's only one example left. And this was, we said we're going from the easy one to the difficult. We did job, we did education, we did stuff at home, motherhood. But what we started with yesterday was, okay, the first disagreement was, a lot of you were saying, video games, movies, music, TV, all that stuff, comic books, these are a waste of time, right? So we said, okay, we've got a formula, you can take anything and actually make it useful. Like, okay, can we actually apply that here or not? So yesterday, I think I got all the husbands and the fathers upset with what I was talking about the rights that they have and the right that the mothers and women have with them. So now either I'm going to upset the kids today, or I'm going to really upset the parents. We'll see which one, inshallah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala. Okay. So remember the formula we had in our mind. We've got to see if we can take this idea, this action, whatever we're doing, and somehow connect it back to Allah. There's two prerequisites we need for especially this, right? This category of video games, music, movie, TV, comic books, whatever. What we'd call entertainment. Let's just call it that. Two prerequisites. One is we have to be honest first, right? We can't play games. Like, no pun intended, obviously. So we can't mess around, right? We need to be 100% honest with ourselves because Allah knows exactly what's going on in our mind, right? We try to play games now, we try to mess around now. The day of judgment, Allah's like, you're fooling yourself. You can't fool me. You can't play these games. The second is we're going to have to learn to be a little bit creative, a bit ingenuitive, and kind of look deeper into some things which are normally a bit superficial, a bit materialistic. We'll get to that. Okay, so again, with that obvious stuff out of the way, yes, that means there's probably no way you can make something like Grand Theft Auto divine. It's not going to work, right? No matter how hard you try, these games which are pretty much clearly haram, right? Stealing and robbing and killing, this kind of stuff, it's not going to work, right? So, okay, that's obvious stuff out of the way. But what about the other kind of stuff? Okay, let's talk about generally when it comes to video games. Just in general, most video games. Right? And they've done a lot of research. One of the, for example, I think Assassin's Creed 1 took place during the Crusades. So if somebody wants to learn about the quote-unquote holy war between Christians, Muslims, and Jews, etc., a lot of the stuff is there. Right? And I'm sure most of our youth are going to learn more from that than they are in their social studies or history class, most likely, right? That's one thing. Okay, so that's video games. Now what about TV, movies, and comic books? Okay, there's no motor skills there, right? What's that going to do? That we'll have to figure out, inshallah. You can send us salawat ala If the mu'mineen just one more step forward, inshallah, they can get closer to each other. You guys are mu'mineen and mu'minat, your brothers and sisters. Even if you're tightly stuck together, that's okay. We're assuming everybody took a shower today, so you won't have that issue. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sons. Again, unless hopefully if you didn't shower, at least some cologne, some ither, some perfume, something. Okay, so video games now, we gave some examples, right? Either improvement of motor skills, mental skills, aptitude, things like this, or it can be a learning device as well. What about comic books, TV, movies? Now, some of these movies and TV and comic books might have some history in them as well. That's possible, so we can use that. And again, anytime we're learning history, go back to what we said about education in general, right? It's learning about the world, learning about Allah's creation. It helps build us up. Okay, so then somebody says, all right, well, what does Batman vs. Superman have to do with history? What does Marvel Civil War have to do with history? What does the Avengers, what do these guys have to do with history, right? Or Suicide Squad? What does this have to do? We're not learning history there. It's make-believe. It's fantasy. It's not real. There's no history there. True. But there's something else. Now, for these movies, it's going to be tough for us to kind of use this point, but some other movies, I think, will drive the point home. Think of movies such as The Matrix, Equilibrium, Inception, V for Vendetta, etc., etc. Movies like this. Movies which are a bit more philosophical. I'll give examples like Star Wars. There are scholars from Qom who have written papers regarding the philosophy in Irfan found in movies like The Matrix, found in movies like Star Wars, and I think the most recent was Interstellar, right? Christopher Nolan's a really excellent director for those who are interested. Interstellar, one of our scholars has said that this is the most Irfani movie you can probably find. Now, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I'm not going to do it for you, obviously, right? So what can these kind of movies do? They can make you reflect upon life. They can make you reflect and question yourself morally. Those things which normally we wouldn't ask ourselves or it doesn't come across to us in our daily lives, these movies can bring those questions out and make us think. Right? So the Matrix, Inception, all those things, they're a bit more obvious, right? About the question of reality. Who am I? What am I? What's real? What's not real? Matrix, for example, is based on the allegory of the cave from Plato. I don't want to get into that history. V for Vendetta and other movies like this are a bit more political, so that's a bit more obvious. Okay, but what about Batman or Superman, Civil War, things like this? So again, if you're into comic books, you're probably going to know this stuff. If you're not, then again, this will be for the adults. A lot of what's discussed in comic books, and then vis-a-vis then in the movies, is things which actually are based in reality. Okay, let's give an example here. So, For those of you who haven't seen Marvel Civil War, it's basically Team Captain America versus Team Iron Man. But what's the whole point? What's their fight? Their fight is about, in the comic books it was one thing, in the movie it's something else, because the comic books and movies are usually never the same. I don't want to get into that because that's ikhtilaf bayna ulama, and I don't want to do that from the member. But basically, the government wants the superheroes to start registering themselves, right? And to fight on behalf of the government. Meaning you can't be secret superheroes anymore. You have to reveal your identities to us. So now, when, whatever, for example, Iron Man wants to go out and save some village in, some random village in Africa, he now, according to this registration act, can't do it unless the UN or the government gives him permission to do so. Okay? So the fight now is that, hold on, why would we have to submit ourselves to this law, right? We have the right to privacy. We have the right to defend whoever we want. Why should we be answering to this? So this is the kind of what goes back and forth. So in the comics, it's a bit more prominent, right? Now, imagine this question that you can easily pull out, which is a very, very common question which you can ask. What if now, out of safety and security, people said, listen, all Muslims need to register right now. Because we need to be sure who's a part of this Wahhabi, Takfiri, Daeshi movement and who's not. We need to know all of your ideologies. And if you think this is really far-fetched, for anybody who's been to the airport recently, Banda is one of them, the things they ask you right now are things like, who's your marja? Yeah, I've had TSA ask me this before, who's your marja? These are the things that they're going to be asking us. There's a lot of fear right now because of things that are in the media, a lot of lies and propaganda that's out there. And you see what's going on with some of these politicians, the things that they're advocating for, ban all Muslims from coming in. Okay, that's one crazy idea. But over here, if somebody decides one day, it happened to the Japanese, right, in World War II. They were interned for that same reason. Don't think it's so far-fetched. People's fear can make them do very irrational and ignorant things. We have to be on our toes. We have to think about, communicate with their kids, especially in an age where the famous answer for kids are, I don't know, I don't care, I don't want to talk about it. Get involved in what they're interested in, right? They want to talk about these things. Well, maybe right away they're like, I don't want to talk about Batman and Superman with you. But if you engage them, and I'm asking you to do here, if your parents are truly interested in engaging you, engage them, right? They're trying to improve, you're trying to improve. This is one way we can do that, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Alright, so I didn't mess anything up with the parents, and I don't think I messed anything up with the kids, right? I think you guys are okay. So I basically somehow gave you ijaza to play video games, read comic books, movies, TV, all that stuff. But again, it's conditioned. If you've got to hide this stuff from your parents, it's probably a no-no, right? If you're not comfortable watching it or playing it or listening to it in front of your parents, you probably think twice about whether you want to do that or not. Parents, that goes for you too. If you're not comfortable watching it in front of your kids, again, you also might want to think about that. Because as we have discussed a few nights before, if you're going to act one way and your kids see that, you're raising them to act exactly like that, right? We have to be careful of that kind of hypocrisy sometimes in our parenting. We have to be very careful of that. Okay. So we gave, again, all these practical tips. Hopefully now you understand how we can start making a connection to anything you do in life. And now hopefully you can figure it out on your own. We mentioned video games, music, TV, education, jobs, etc., etc. Now you should be able on your own to take anything that exists and somehow try to see if you can connect it back to Allah and make it a spiritual action. If you can, if you don't have that creativity, for example, or you can't figure it out, there's one simple thing that you can do. One very, very simple thing. And it's something normally we're only trained to do before we start eating. What do we always tell our kids to do right before they take that first bite? What are you supposed to say? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay. Or maybe we're teaching our kids that, okay, before we go in the car, we recite dua for safar, right? Subhanallah li sakhara lana hada wa ma kunna lahu muqrinin wa inna ila rabbina lamunqalibun. And then, of course, we have specific du'as for entering the bathroom, leaving the bathroom, starting eating, when you're finished eating. Everything's got a du'a, right? Okay, but there's no du'a for video games. There's no du'a to start watching TV, right? There's no du'a before you sit down in the theater to start watching a movie. But Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is an all-encompassing, it's your default template du'a. If you say this, okay, first you just say that. If you then reflect on it and say, okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, I'm seeking the help and I'm keeping Allah in my mind. With that, hopefully whatever I'm doing here somehow benefits my soul. If you can start off with your niyat, with your intention that way, you'll see yourself, as you start going through it, how much more beneficial your actions can be. Again, let's take it to another quick example. A lot of us go to the gym, work out, right? Whether you want to lose weight or gain weight, whatever you want to do. Gain muscle mass, that's what I mean. I gain weight, right? Nobody's looking to gain like biryani belly, I know that, but what I mean is, okay, you're trying to get healthier. Let's put it like that, right? You're trying to get healthier. Then if you just do that, all right, one niyat is that, yeah, I'm trying to do this so I get a beach body. Inshallah, nobody has that niyat, right? Or somebody's trying to get married and they're trying to get fit for that, okay, fine. But imagine now, you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before you start. And then immediately you come to your mind, and now Allah starts putting something in your mind too. Okay, if I get healthier, if I get stronger, if I get more fit, perhaps this is a way for me to, one, serve my community, and then in turn serve the Imam of the time. Be his supporter, be his Shia, and be his defender. Again, you see how now every action, somehow it can be connected. Even if you don't see the direct connection, you at least say, okay, whatever I'm doing here, whatever physical or spiritual or mental benefit that's there, I need to use this for the Imam of the time and for no one else. Not just for me, but it's got to serve Islam in general. Sallu ala Muhammad. It's one thing that I really love actually about living in Iran, right? In an Islamic society in Iran. And when you come across individuals who have that kind of taqwa mindset, right? Like over here, somebody swipes your credit card or takes your money, that's it. It's pure capitalism, right? It's consumerism. That's it, you're done. Over there, when you find the right religious, person, business person, cashier, it's really beautiful when right before they take your money, right before they swipe your card, they'll say out loud as a tadakkur, as a reminder, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and then they swipe. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and then they take the money. Reminding themselves and me as well, as the person who's a buyer, a consumer. Listen, yes, you might be buying whatever simple groceries, you might be buying a new phone, you might be buying whatever ice cream, but this transaction, Allah is the one who's providing this transaction. He's provided you that risk, that money, and in turn, He's giving you the same food. This is all from Allah. It's a really nice reminder, and I love when people do that. I would suggest the same thing for whenever we do things here. I really, really love when poets, before they recite their poetry, they start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Especially if they do it out loud. Normally it's not the culture, it's not the urf, but reciting the Bismillah will have a better effect, one, for the person, the sha'ir who's reciting it, and two, those who are waiting to hear the dhikr of Ahlul Bayt. So advice. Even if you don't want to say it out loud, at least say it to yourself so you remind yourself of what your niyyat is. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Okay. So this is one meaning of wastefulness